All right, I think we're all complete, almost complete. So we can start with the last session for today. So we've got a little bit of a challenge to spike up the attention again and to really make a good show together of this session. My name is Niels Eldering. I work for the European Space Agency. I'm stationed in Noordwijk. I actually work at the office of Frank Zaltzgeber on technology transfer. I myself have 12 years of experience in innovation management and business incubation management. And today we're going to talk about the non-financial assistance for venture creation. And with that we mean the innovation toolboxes, competitions, hackathons, incubators, business parks. It could be a lot. But we try today the objective of today is to distill a kind of recipe of the elements and how we need to utilize to really have a good toolbox for venture creation, and particularly the non-financial way to do it. But before that, we should first look indeed at the ingredients. And for that, we have a keynote speaker today who will set a little bit the stage with the keynote, but also talks about a successful case example from Albuquerque, New Mexico. How these ingredients should be identified. And before I'm going to formally introduce you, John, the thing you always talk about is the four pillars: people, talents, capital, and community. And I'm going to borrow those elements for today's discussion to see where all the other speakers have their emphasis on or combine it. And we have 6 speakers after John, so bear with us. We try to keep the pace up, but we really need your attention as well. So after those presentations, this ramblam of presentations, we're going to engage in a discussion and to see really how new venture creation can flourish. So, with no further delays, I would like to introduce John Freisinger from Albuquerque, New Mexico, CEO, President of Technology Ventures Corporation. Please, the floor is yours.
Nuevo Mexico. Don't worry, I speak English too. Probably one of the biggest misconceptions about Albuquerque is how unextraordinary it is. As a place for successful venture to begin, it really is the most unlikely of places. The state of New Mexico has less than 2 million people. The largest concentration of people are in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and there are only 500,000 people in Albuquerque. In fact, if it wasn't for the atomic bomb, New Mexico probably would not have grown as a state. And that's a weird thing to talk about, that our state actually grew up around a nuclear weapon. But in 1945, when the government finally decided to detonate a nuclear bomb, they did so at Albuquerque, New Mexico with the help of 2 national laboratories: Los Alamos, which was the home of the scientists, and Sandia, which wasn't quite a base yet, but it was a location where the people that could assemble the bomb were located. After the war, the challenge with Albuquerque was we were largely an agricultural society that was based largely on extracting or farming green chili. Now, most of you don't have green chili in your everyday diet, so it was not a big export market. But intentionally, in around 1975 to 1980, the state of New Mexico decided to view the research labs as an asset within the community. Now, I don't know about your opinion of nuclear weapons. In fact, I don't quite care about your opinion of nuclear weapons. They exist. And we're very fortunate there are 2 research labs in in New Mexico that actually do the science to make sure that those weapons are never used unless there is something catastrophic that happens. So our community just simply chose to embrace that as an asset that we could utilize to help our economy grow out of its agrarian roots. And what we did was we approached the national labs and said to the national labs, could you help us with our entrepreneurs? And we didn't even know what that meant at the time. In fact, at the time, we really just asked the national labs to help us start businesses. And the national labs, because they're good researchers, had absolutely no idea what that meant either. But they all nodded in agreement. And the federal government then, in and around 1985, made it possible for our national labs to go ahead and work with the private sector through legislative means. That was 1985. Since then, New Mexico has managed to grow its entrepreneurial ecosystem without the advantage of population density, without the advantage of a huge number of natural resources, without the advantage of a large amount of venture capital or capital to even think of, and really without a very educated workforce, a workforce outside the labs. So what I'm hoping to cover in the next few minutes is simply how we got from a third world nation to a state that leads in entrepreneurial growth. And those are the points of my talk at this point. The model that we employ is really an entrepreneur-based model that is backed by venture capital. I don't do the work, right? The entrepreneurs in our ecosystem do the work. And you'll hear a lot of my references back to ecosystem, because this really is a holistic approach to helping to build entrepreneurs within the community. An entrepreneur that comes to our doors has a 1 in 3 probability of receiving venture backing for their invention or for their service. Now, taken as a national average, the national average is about 1 in 1,000. So 1 in 3 is actually a very good, we'll call it a hit rate for entrepreneurs going through our program. What we help them basically with is to understand the application between technology and the marketplace. Because without a marketplace, technology being worked is essentially a science fair project. The government or somebody else has to fund it, and what we're seeking to do is make businesses out of these entrepreneurial startups. There are a couple of components that we need to look at. Is there a market for the technology? Market research. Can we actually develop a business strategy around which the business can move into the private sector? A lot of technologies, while they may be brilliant, there's no way to get them from the laboratory into the private sector. And usually the problem is what we call a critical scaler problem. There's one item within the production that cannot be scaled at this time to make sure that you can produce that in the private sector. The last thing that was very important to us is New Mexico is a desert in every sense of the word. We have very little water, but we also have very little capital. There's very little investment in the state of New Mexico to help entrepreneurs succeed. So even if you have a brilliant technology and a brilliant team, oftentimes there was no capital within the state. Our success actually has been unrivaled within our particular area. We've managed to help companies raise $1.3 billion worth of venture capital. Now that's over a period of about 22 years, but still that is one of the most significant capital raises anywhere in the United States for an organization. Now, once again, our company didn't do that. What our company did was work with the talent that was within New Mexico to help them develop strategies that would attract that venture capital. Now, in New Mexico, currently, there are only 9 venture capital firms, of which only 2 are active, meaning they're making active investments. So any investment that is made in New Mexico really has to go outside the state or outside the country to look for the venture. So $1.3 billion is actually a very difficult number to reach. We also, in our model, count jobs, because I think that's what everybody wants out of technology transfer, is the creation of jobs within a given community. And so within our metric, we count the 13,500 jobs that have been started by the companies that we've helped to nurture. I almost said found there. We didn't found any of these companies. Along the way, we also helped people file the legal documents and create the structure they needed to start 120 new companies. And so those are the bare metrics that we cover. As we heard from some earlier panels, there's a huge gap between where technology exists and the marketplace. Sometimes we call it the Valley of Death. I've seen the Valley of Death. It actually is in New Mexico, because there is a large expanse of space where there is nothing. But oftentimes there are a number of hurdles between one side and the other. This is a picture of part of the Rio Grande Gorge in northern New Mexico. If you'd ever like to come to New Mexico to see how we do tech transfer, I'd love to also show you some of our natural wonders. And here's some of the slides. The challenge really lies in how do we take basic research and make it into something useful, like an iWatch or an iPhone. One of my application developers in Albuquerque actually has developed an application for my iWatch, which is timing my presentation today. You're welcome. If I go over 10 minutes, it will vibrate. If I go over 11 minutes, it will shock me. Okay, so I'm under a bit of pressure here. The idea really came from a nuclear weapons program. They have a haptic response to engineers when they're turning a screwdriver. If they turn it too much out of torque, it shocks them. Now, that's good in a nuclear weapons program, but what's the practical application? The practical application is audiences that aren't bored. I have 10 minutes. What we seek to do really is build a bridge across any gorge that we encounter. This is done through both the technology, being able to move from one side to the other, but it's a bridge built largely on 4 fundamental components, the most obvious of which is capital. Without investment, we can't do our work, even as entrepreneurs. We'd like to say that we need to bootstrap or we need to use minimal resources. We still need to pay people. So capital is very important, and so capital creation is one of the components of the work that we do at Technology Venture Corporation. The second is a community in which the entrepreneurs can actually work. If entrepreneurs are not welcome in your community because of legislation or resources or some other impediments like the ability to find labor, the entrepreneurs can move to other communities. And I think everyone is aware of a very promising startup company that may have had to move out of your community because it couldn't access the resources that it needed. And so community, a sense of place, is very important for the entrepreneurs. The third component, of course, is talent. There's a difference between an entrepreneur, someone who is willing to risk his talent, his time, and his capital to start a business, and someone who is willing to work for an entrepreneur. Now, just to let you know what's going on, I've spoke for 10 minutes. I'm about to get shocked, so this should be very interesting. So if we look at capital, talent, and community, the most important thing that the labs can generate for us, of course, is the ideas. A quick overview, we are a nonprofit. I was largely funded in the early years by the Lockheed Martin Corporation. Thank you to Lockheed Martin. But we are a standalone entity. And as a standalone entity, we are a grant-writing entity which can actually bring money back into the community. Our biggest challenge in the United States is government legislation. So if one of the policies that you're looking to implement for entrepreneurship has to do with legislation, be careful. We currently have 23 pieces of legislation that determine how we can do tech transfer in the United States. 23 landmines. And there's the shock. All right, I'm going to turn this off. So I would encourage you to look at your local community for things you can do with the legislation that's already in force, as opposed to going out and trying to create additional legislation, because this makes my job very difficult. Our primary source of funding is non-debt. We are seeking venture capital in all of its forms, whether that be angel capital, whether that be early stage invested capital, or whether that be crowdfunding. Crowdfunding is probably one of those new venture creations that really is impacting the way we do our business, because the crowdfunders are on the internet. They don't have to be in Albuquerque, New Mexico. In summation, I would say if you're looking to build an infrastructure around entrepreneurship, there are really 4 basic things we need to look at, and that's what our panel will talk about today. The first is talent. Is there enough talent in your region to be able to express an idea? The second is ideas. They can come from anywhere. For us, they largely come from national labs, like Sandy and Los Alamos National Labs. The third is capital. No money, no entrepreneurs. They'll move somewhere else. And the fourth is a community that will embrace them and seek to support their activities as these entrepreneurs thrive and hopefully remain in your community. And that's all we have time for. Thank you.
It's quite impressive. That means more than 10 million euros, for dollars, I have to say, per company.
Yes.
Wow, okay, great. So we talk about talents, we talk about entrepreneurs' talents, we talk about also the community. And community is also about partnerships. And so the next person I would like to ask on stage, or you're already on stage, is Professor Amnon Ginati, Head of the Integrated Application and Telecommunications Related Applications Department of the European Space Agency. And you're going to tell us a little bit about how you can manage partnerships.
Thank you very much, Niels. I'm very pleased to be here today because of two reasons. One reason is that what you will learn today from what ESA is doing, actually it was born here in Munich. And the second reason, I had two supporters, one inside ESA, one outside ESA. You know, to start a program, innovative program within ESA, with all respect to our fantastic scientific mission landing on Comet, when you talk about business, commercialization, we are quite in embryonic stage, let's put it like that. And very conservative. We have a machine to develop fantastic mission, but we have no machine, no procedure to develop sustainable operational system, which is commercially driven. And this was attempt of our Director General to create something to use of 50 or 45 years of investment in space to create services for daily life of society. This attempt was not easy, so I would like to thank here, after 6 years, to two persons. One is within ESA, Feustel Büchel. He may be forgotten because he does so many things, but when our Director General asked me to do it, I said, yes, fantastic, but I need resources, budget. And he said, I have no budget, I'm Director General. But I said, no budget, no program. They looked at me and said, you are blackmailing me. I said, no, but how you want us to do program? And he asked me not only to do a paper, he asked me to do project, sustainable projects. I will show you some of the results. Then I said, but without budgets, no way. Then he sent me to Feustel Büchel, you remember? He made a magic model, which called taxes of all directors, because everybody has to benefit from this program, and he arranged the budget. Then we wanted to create alliance with outside of ESA. One member state who can support. They were very suspicious. So I discovered there is in Bavaria a person called Dr. Gruppe, very innovative. So he invited me, we had a chat here. It's not a joke, but the first project have started here in Munich. So I'm very happy to give you results of the last 6 years, what we have developed within ESA, which I call it the space ecosystems, the results of 45 or 50 years today of investment in space that will be translated into daily life businesses. For that, you need certain conditions. The first condition, it's not written, confidentiality. If you really would like to have a good idea collected, this must be in very high confidentiality process. ESA, as a scientific organization, is like a Swiss cheese. There are many member states, participation, international partners, so it's not easy to create this confidentiality issue. Galileo is one of the programs which is really confidential, therefore there is a special process. You have to have a passcode to go to the rooms and so on. But this program must be, if not, you will not collect the real idea. So it's not even written there, but this is a basic trust to generate. Second, you have to use existing infrastructure. It doesn't make sense to promise to community or paying customer or partner. The program may come in 5 or 10 years. Galileo was one of the effects we suffered in Europe. It took more than 5, 6, 7 years. It's not yet even in place. So we cannot attract private investors. We need to have partnership with different stakeholders. I'll show you some of the examples that we have created, because we are excellent engineers, but we need a partner who knows the problem of the market, who shares that with us, and we can find together a solution. And the solution shall be for paying customer. Not only user will love to get the data, but also paying customer, because this will create the sustainability of services which are co-funded. So all our activity, it's not 100% funded, it's 50% contribution from ESA. But not only money, there are processes that I will describe how we created this platform or incubation of services. And if you create services who make money, you will attract money from private investor. And we are today attracted already many investors who pay. Tomorrow I'll give you inside view about the investors, about the process, and which fund we are preparing, rolling out already in the process. Today I was asked on discuss about the process. So process, you need also to coordinate. Europe, it's like a Babylon Towers. You have many countries, many nations, European Commission, many others who play in the space. So we need to have, first one, to have internal coordination within ESA. We have also feudalic directorates. Second, we have to coordinate with the Commission. So we have regular meeting, yearly annual discussion coordination. Second, we have high-level advisory who help us to understand what really the market need, which we'll address. So you see here the competence of ESA in the last 50 years on all thematic area, air observation, navigation, and so on. And what we have created is detection of the raw diamond, as we call it, based on the user demands. We are rolling it further to feasibility studies. We are moving forward to demonstration pre-operation. And then we create the operational services. But assuming we got user community who have no solution from the existing infrastructure, we will build for them the system. This is one example of satellite IS constellations that we develop in partnership with operator, Exact Earth, as well as Look Space developing microsatellite. The first intention within ESA to create partnership to roll out operational services. If we move forward, show you the partnership. That's only some of the partnership we created. With EMSA, fisheries organization to maritime activity, we have European Defense Agency, Eurocontrol and EASA, UAVs activities. The last workshop was in May, 5th workshop. We are the first organization who fly UAV in Europe and unsegregated airspace, not because we have any military in mind, not at all. The market is civilian, it's huge. And when we started the program 5 years ago, we said, you know, with the traffic jam of the streets today, if you order pizza, it will come cold. So maybe UAV will deliver warm pizza to your house. And there are many since then, as you see. Lux Development have invested more than 4 million in the telemedicine services for sub-Saharan Africa. It's a very nice program. Third-party funding. First time ESA got a mandate to spend money from third party for development purposes. We have agreement with Space for Rail. We have many activity on that, and we are asked to collaborate with them, the whole network of rail and train in Europe, to develop the next generation and prepare them for the Galileo with high information probabilities that will come when Galileo will be in operation. Last not least in this list, European Investment Bank. You know that the bank have program to support countries elsewhere. Not in Europe, but the other programs. So we, with a wish of the European Investment Bank, we prepare Space for Mediterranean to support the process of in the Mediterranean of democracy and economy, and we create a program, Space for Mediterranean Acceleration Program, the SMAP acceleration. I will tell you tomorrow more detail about that subject. De facto, we are running more than 320 activity and projects in different stages. We have more than 473 entities from 26 countries. Although we have only 22 member states, we have 26 because with the third-part funding, we are using also African countries, companies are participating, allowed to participate. You see, we are using almost in every thematic area, water, transport, and so on. I'm not going into detail, but it's not the question of how many activities we are doing and how we generate, but we have created ambassador network platforms in all over Europe. You see the network of ambassadors where de facto they are close to the user, close to the need, close to the market, and they are networking between themselves if solution, but also create a critical mass of user to create critical mass of funding process of payment. And this we call raw diamond detections. And the process is, as you can see, concept with little seed, investment, high risk. Next step, feasibility, mainly on the business case, not the technology. Usually it's easier. The last part that we can do is demonstration of the project and pre-operation before we roll out to the market. Then we face the problem, many companies need money. They go to the bank, young people, and the bank asks them, do you have a house as a guarantee? Of course, they say no. They don't get any money. So we have a problem of most of the company who are coming out to the market, they cannot roll out the services. What we did, we started to meet different ventures and investors, private. We have many of those already investing in those companies. ESA rubber stamp, and we did all the seed, the high risk, and they are getting with the low risk. This is a process that we have supported. What I want to show you is that how we attract investors. So we evaluated from the 300 activities we are running, It's a young program, so we have only some of the project we could evaluate. So we started with 168 activity to the success rate to evaluate. Why they were successful? And the success, as you can see, we have more than 55% successful commercially, but also operational, mean in a way to be commercially viable. 20% are a seed, means start with idea A and move to idea B during the course of the project. About 26% no go on, which I think it's a very good profile. By having this kind of criteria, we moved forwards to identify really services that has been generated, 51, with 5 key performance indicators. The indicators are the service profitability, willing to pay, quality, and so on. We identify that those who are having customer willing to pay already in the process of ISA, it's almost 99% success. Therefore, we use these indicators to apply on the ongoing activity. If we see there are some weak points, we are helping them to solve those aspects as well. After this analysis, we had few activities, 19, that we could evaluate from indicators point of view. Indicators, what does it mean? We took 10 indicators. I will start with revenue. We invested 27 million in this 19 project, co-funded. Today, they have in their books more than 100 million. Very conservative calculation. I mean factor 4 to 1 within 2-3 years. We have forecasted to 2020. We identified they have 550 something million in 2020. Mean factor 20 to 1. This is a fantastic message to all investors. Proven, you can check, due diligence is facts. Then we have taken and checked how many jobs has been created. In this 19 project, there are almost 200 full-time jobs has been created. This is a lot, about average 10 per company. We are exporting to more than 70 countries all over the world. We have sales between few millions to several hundred millions. And these are facts, and it's expanding. We are the best business developer for our company because if we go to Africa, I just came back from Space Education for Africa, I can tell you 24 schools that we have equipped, there are 1,000 schools will follow. This is a business for our industry. You know that either we're getting paid to help our European industry to get access to the global market and to be competitive. And the nice things that I personally like is the value creation. By creating satellite finance to Africa, you know, we have many foreigners from Africa working in Europe. They transfer money every month home. The transfer, the banks take about 15%, and it takes weeks until the mother gets the business or the money in the village. They created the concept, which we have supported, more than 39 countries in Africa. The money being transferred within few hours, and the charge maybe 1% to 2%. I feel it's a very attractive program because most of the money stays in the pocket of the family in Africa. The last not least of the criteria that we have checked is the investment leverage. In 8 projects of this 19, we have more than 12 million private investment. And this is very successful. Now, how does it work? Anybody can come with great idea to us. We're supported by up to 50%. If he doesn't have 50%, he got a problem. And we got a problem in Europe. We don't have the mechanism. So we started to explore with industry partner. We have a great process, no young people, no good idea. So we made the links between those. And they do a deal, and we can follow support. The next is to third-party funding. We have plenty of funds and investors who are supporting. The other things is the European Investment Bank in grant, but also in fund that we have created. Then the operators. Tomorrow I'll give you some nice picture about the operators. They are very rich, they have a lot of money. They start to shift to the downstream. Last but not least, we want to get some money back to support new ideas. And I would like to thank you for that.
Yes, thank you very much. So incubator of services, but also of partnerships, forging them together. I'm very happy to announce the next speaker who will talk also more about the toolbox for a technology transfer, toolbox for venture creation. It's my pleasure to announce you Takayuki Kawai from JAXA. You're the Counselor of New Enterprise and Promotion Department. Please, welcome.
Thank you very much, Niels, for the kind introduction for me. Again, my name is Takayuki Kawai with Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency, or JAXA, the Japanese Space Agency. I have also the two reasons to come to Munich. The first one is, of course, that I need to explain more about JAXA. The second one is I like to enjoy the German beer and the sausage after the long session. Okay? Then let me explain briefly about our activity. Okay, so let me introduce our organization first. JAXA was established in October 2003, 12 years ago. At that time, 3 Japanese space and aerospace-related government agencies were merged into one body. So we are covering the launch vehicles and satellite development, space station and astronauts, planetary exploration, and also aviation programs. Our headquarters is located in Tokyo, and we have several space centers in Japan, and also we have some offices in Paris, Washington, D.C., Moscow, and Thailand. Our annual budget is about 180 billion Japanese yen, or 1.5 billion US dollars. And we have about 1,500 employees. Actually, the size of the organization is about 1/10 of NASA, or 1/5 of ESA. But we are proud of that fact that we are covering the various space and aerospace-related area with this size of the budget and employee. So this just shows our space activity structure. So we, JAXA, is categorized as the National Research and Development Agency. So we are not a part of the government, but most of the budget is coming from the government. And the principal policy for the whole Japanese space activity is established by Office of National Space Policy, here, under the cabinet. And this office issues the basic plan on space policy every 5 to 10 years. And this policy is quite a Bible for our activity. And this just shows our department's activity. So I'm with this New Enterprise Promotion Department. The name of the department is New Enterprise, but our goal is not so. The establishment of the New Enterprise is not our main purpose. But we are working for the technology transfer from our agency to the industry as spin-off. Also, that we are introducing technology from the industry or academia to JAXA. And our department is also working for the intellectual property licensing or venture support and incubation. So let me explain about some example cases for these activities. So the first one is a spin-off activities. So we have a JAXA open laboratory system. This system is offering the joint research opportunities for the companies or universities to create a new business with JAXA technology or expertise. From the feasibility study phase to the development phase, the applicant can collaborate with JAXA in maximum 6 years. And the cooling vest, this one. And the cooling vest is one of the successful examples from this JAXA open laboratory system. The original technology of this vest is coming from the research result for the cooling underwear for the spacesuit. But this cooling vest is now in the commercial market from last year. And for example, it is used by firemen or firefighters or medical doctors at the surgery or operating room, such as very high temperature places. And this chart shows our business incubation for satellite application system. This system is only for the satellite application development purpose. But we, JAXA, is providing the support, such as required information, materials, and technology support to the private company in order to establish or develop the new application for the satellite data. We have started this system from last year, and at this moment, the application for several different areas like disaster management, ocean, resource and energy, and education are considered. I cannot explain in detail of each case here, but we believe that we will announce publicly the first successful result from this system within this year. The last chart shows about venture support. But in this case, we have a system for supporting the JAXA internal venture, so our researchers and engineers can get a benefit, such as business consultation and working environment support from JAXA. However, financial support is not provided in this system. And the last activity item is our external inquiry service. It is a bit different and unique from other items. At our department, we are receiving the inquiries and requests via telephone or email from private companies seeking for the new business idea in the aerospace-related field. The actual achievement, we received more than 300 inquiries last year, and 18 items were contracted. We think that this system is kind of the indirect support for the companies, including a venture company. Okay, this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yes, so it is important to have a toolbox, and you demonstrated very nicely that, yeah, it can be new venture creation, it can be IP transfer, it can be various things. But apart from the ingredients and apart from the toolbox, there's obviously also a market which needs to be there and needs to be susceptible to it. And for that reason, I would like to invite to the stage Gian Gerardo Calini, Gary, Head Market Development of the GSA. Welcome.
So first, thanks a lot for having tried to pronounce my name, which is very complicated. In fact, everybody call me Gary, and also that is very difficult to write because it's not Gary in American and so on. So I am very pleased to be here in such a high-level audience, with such a high-level audience and fantastic panel. And I wish to bring you some, market air. And I was quite disciplined. As you see, I have some German origins because I just did 3 slides. So I have only 3, but I will elaborate a bit. And so this is our mission, GSA. What is GSA trying to achieve? Let's read just the first 3 lines. So highest return on investment. There is a big investment of 12 billion euros on Galileo and EGNOS. We have the obligation, all of us in Europe, to get the highest return on investment, which means having penetration in the different market segments, the highest possible penetration, therefore users, public economic benefits, which translate really in money going back to businesses selling products and services, citizens having concrete benefits, and also states, because they will collect a lot of taxes. So we have a very specific model with specific target that the Commission is achieving. And as you can see, these are the different tasks we do. What I really want to underline is that basically GSA is an exploitation agency with an end-to-end service. I have some business experience. Basically, I was a McKinsey consultant. I was brought up in American multinational like Procter & Gamble and Citigroup. So I would use the word business system, which starts from understanding the user needs, defining the services we want to offer to the users, delivering those services, making sure that the right applications are coming up in the market to satisfy these needs. Receivers and all the other value chain actors integrate our GNSS services. I will talk today about European GNSS, so positioning mainly, but you have to know that, of course, GNSS is triggering many other related technology. All the other positioning technologies come together, but also telecommunication and Earth observation. Many of our projects in applications involve all of these technologies. And finally, we also involve the service providers, and then we make sure that in each market segment, we convince users to adopt. At the end of this business system and of this cycle, we measure the user satisfaction. So you understand it is a full end-to-end business system, service model, call it as you like. And just to complicate a bit more the picture, you have to understand that we are facing, all of us in this panel, and especially us, we are facing many different market segments, totally different from the others. One thing is to go to the aviation community, highly regulated market, or maritime, which is rail. The other is to go to the agricultural market or to the location-based services. Each one of these markets is a totally different ball game. We have to adapt. We have to be able to face that. And to be even more concrete, we diagnose today in some of these markets, namely aviation, namely agriculture, namely mapping, and namely a bit also we are doing something in road, we are managing in this way, as I told you. And therefore, I want to basically jump a bit the history of the GSA, because I don't think it's really very sexy, because what is more important is to see the results. So what did we achieve so far? We achieved results on EGNOS. EGNOS, I think we have all to be proud in Europe that already about 1/3 of the airports in our target market are EGNOS enabled. We have 262 procedures. You don't imagine the effort to achieve these results, and we have in the pipeline a lot more. All the associations in Europe which deal with aviation are in touch with us. European Business Association, European Regional Aviation Association, European Small Airport Association. We know them all. We know 28 air navigation service providers. So we are working in detail in each market segment. Maritime, very important activity, totally different ball game. We are working, and we already obtained that Galileo is being considered at IMO for recognition. By the way, we are also working in panels where our friends OVISA are involved, with great pleasure. And also we are working very tightly to make sure that SBUS version 2 of EGNOS, and in the future version 3, will be adopted by the maritime community, which is a very conservative community. Rail, another very conservative community, we are working with them. The UNIFE, the Association of the Railway Signaling Industry, UNISIG, to make sure that user requirements are coming up and EGNOS is soon considered for this market. In surveying and mapping, we can say that EGNOS is already a reality. We created a new market. We democratized the market. Till some time ago, there were only very sophisticated millimeter equipment in this market. Now, even municipalities measure with very low cost, 1,000 receivers, they measure their areas with EGNOS. So we created a new market. This is what the Commission is trying to do. This is what GSA is trying to do. We don't want to cannibalize existing industries or businesses. We want to create new business opportunity. The same goes for agriculture. Till some year ago, you had only very sophisticated 1 centimeter service provider. Now we have 100,000 farmers in Europe, and they are growing every day, using EGNOS with very low-cost receivers. And what is very interesting is the size of the field, which is going down, of the users is going down. Therefore, the users, the number of users in agriculture will grow. Finally, in road, this is a very interesting case, because even if EGNOS was not designed for road, you have 18,000 kilometers adopting EGNOS in Slovakia. You have Germany declaring that they will have EGNOS inside. And of course, when I'm talking about EGNOS, these onboard units are already Galileo ready. And in Germany, they are getting ready. They will have soon onboard unit EGNOS ready. And all other European countries using GNSS are going to be soon ready for EGNOS and Galileo. Last but not least, it is important to say that also Belgium, for truck, is going to use soon EGNOS. But this is not finished. Of course, we have started with EGNOS. This was our playing field. We have people who are experts in each of these market segments. they have 10 years of experience, and they are able to market. This was very important to build the skills and to be ready for Galileo. We have been waiting a bit too much for Galileo. But now the time is coming, and we have to be ready, because by next year we really want, and we will do, not just us, the Commission and ESA, we will be able to have initial services, not first services, initial services, because how can you call first service something after so much we are waiting for it? Initial services. And they will be interesting, because we will have a differentiator, search and rescue service, which will offer a return link, not in 2016, but at least will be competitive. And we will start also having an open service, which will be highly demanded, because we were able, with the Commission, to issue a regulation on the e-call, which will require all cars in Europe by 2018 to be Galileo equipped, which means that all the cars which should be sold in Europe will have to have Galileo. So in this case, a regulation is creating a business opportunity. So I really think that all what we are going together in this panel, with the people in this panel, with you, is going to ensure this return. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you very much. Yes, actually, it's a good point what you mentioned about, okay, you are being a bit modest, I think, because you say we have been waiting a bit for Galileo. But I can tell you from experience, looking at 10 years of business incubation centers we run as the European Space Agency, 10, 12 years ago, we already had startup companies coming to our doors with the promise of Galileo. Even though it was not there yet, they already were mobilizing, they already were interested and started already offering services, not yet sophisticated for Galileo yet, but they were already ready. So it was it was good that it was promoted, because it already encouraged entrepreneurs to start taking steps and not wait until it was there. So I think that was a beautiful thing. Next speaker, I'm very interested to see how you shed your light on the things, is Alexei Belyakov, Vice President, Head of Space and Telecommunication Cluster of the Skolkovo Foundation. Please.
Yeah, thank you, Niels. And let me tell you a little bit about the Skolkovo Foundation. Yeah, actually, I would like to start from the next slide. So first of all, what is Skolkovo Foundation? It is the development institution that was created in Russia a few years ago. So as every development institution, the Skolkovo Foundation would not exist if we lived in an ideal world. And by ideal world, I mean the world where entrepreneurs dare to make new inventions, where venture funds dare to invest them, and where big corporations take a risk of implementing those new inventions into their supply chains. But unfortunately, the world where we live in is not ideal, and that is why the Skolkovo Foundation, and specifically the Space Cluster, was created. And the core mission of the Space Cluster is to foster private space activity in Russia. And there are some good and bad results that I want you to share. So first of all, just to give you an idea about the size of and the snapshot on the Skolkovo Foundation, the revenue of the residents of the Skolkovo Foundation is close to $1 billion, which is a pretty nice figure. And this is, by the way, this is the revenue that we counted only in 2014. There are more than 1,000 startups in the Skolkovo Foundation, and the grant financing that was granted last year is slightly more than $200 million of dollars. And you see that we have that our companies have attracted more than $200 million of dollars of private investment. That means that we effectively use this leverage of private financing in Russia. So talking about the specific mission of Skolkovo Foundation, I would say that our mission is to support and to foster the Space 2.0 phenomena in Russia. So I guess all of you are familiar with this phenomenon. It is connected with new entrants coming to the market, offering the new business models, more effective business models, and effectively getting the big share of those markets. So what we do in Skolkovo Space Cluster is we're trying to identify those promising players, to identify the talent, to support the talent financially and infrastructurally, and to accelerate the business of our companies. So what are the specific areas that we focus on? Of course, as I said, our core goal is to foster the private business, and that means that we try to be as close to our customers as possible. And again, that is why, of course, we try to focus our efforts on the service on the service part of the value chain. By service, of course, I mean all those interesting applications that we already mentioned here. I mean, of course, the navigational applications, and there are a few companies in my cluster that have come up with very interesting products with indoor application, with highly precise navigation, and with some other technologies. Also, we support companies that are offering service in Earth observation type of business. There are a few residents of my cluster that have come up with a product in agricultural sector, in infrastructural monitoring sector, in energy sector, and so on and so forth. The reasons why we support the companies down the value chain are obvious, right? Because the barriers there are very low, and actually the cost of infrastructure is coming down. That means that the marginality of the companies that are offering service to the end user is growing. Nevertheless, we try to be close to the big players, to the big guys in Russia and worldwide, but we try to be realistic. To be honest with you, I don't think that sometime soon we shall see the Russian Elon Musk, right, or let's say Russian analog of SpaceX, unfortunately. But still, I do believe that some of our companies, they have the opportunity and they have a necessary skills to integrate their products inside the supply chains of big Russian and international corporations. And there are some of them, and there are, by the way, a few residents of my cluster that have become the robust tier 2 and tier 3 suppliers of big corporates. So again, talking about our priorities, those are services, those are element and component producers, and of course those are people who still try to build the space infrastructure, and of course I'm talking about small satellites and spacecraft. Here are some examples that are probably indicative of what we're doing in Skolkovo. Of course, I guess our kind of frontman is Dauria. Mikhail Kokorich was presenting today at the first panel. So Dauria was formed just a few years ago. It was supported by Skolkovo grant financing. It is managed, and Dauria has managed to attract the private investment into its capital, and at the moment the Dauria backlog is contract backlog is more than $200 million, and Dauria has launched the first private satellites last year, and those satellites were with the AIS payload. There are some other companies, for example, like Sputnik, who also managed to launch the private satellites, and Sputnik has designed the satellite with Earth observation payloads. Also, I would like to make example of RoboSivia. This is a very interesting example because RoboSivia has developed a technology that was meant to initially, that was supposed to be initially used for navigation. The lunar rovers, but the founders of that company, they managed to find a new, more commercial application for the technology, and they equipped the forklifts with the automatic vision systems. So Now, if there is a forklift equipped with RoboCV system, there is no need for operator for such kind of forklift. So the forklift just goes without an operator across the warehouse, and it delivers goods when necessary. And by the way, a couple of months ago, RoboCV has executed the big license deal with the largest German, was one of the largest German warehouse equipment provider, Stihl. Also, RoboCV has managed to attract the venture financing from largest Russian and international venture funds. There are a few companies that are working in the field of navigation. For example, Wayray is offering interesting gadgets for private vehicles, and Wayray was named by the Forbes magazine of one of the top technologies and top applications for private vehicles. And also, what I would like to underline, and what probably differentiates Skolkovo from other incubators and from other development institutions, is that we pay a lot of attention for collaboration with our core partners, and by core partners I mean the largest Russian and international corporations. Here are the few examples of that kind of collaboration with core partners. So, for example, Airbus Group is actively investing into Skolkovo startups. So, for example, they have created and invested into 3 startups: DataAdvance, Telum, and Airbus Irtio. So, for example, DataAdvance has come up with a special software that is needed for design of the aircraft vehicles, and that software is being actively used by Russian and European aerospace corporations. Telum is a company that develops a special type of telecommunications equipment, and Airbus Irtio is a company that makes research in the field of detonation engines. So all of the companies they're being financially supported by Airbus, and all of them are pretty financially successsol. And another example is Boeing Corporation. This is a U.S. corporation that is building huge research center in Skolkovo, and that R&D center is going online by the end of this year. So, to conclude, right? Talking about specific instruments that we use to support our startups. There are actually a few of them. There are financial ones, like venture funding, like grant funding, like tax breaks, and there are non-financial or I would say infrastructural ones, right? Like acceleration, mentorship, coaching, and so on and so forth. So when we were starting as a development institution like 5 years ago, we thought that it would suffice to fund our companies, and we were going to see their commercial success sometime soon. But unfortunately, this did not happen. That is why that is when we realized that we need to to change our support system, and we actually analyzed the best practices that we saw in the US, in Europe, and in Asia, and. One of the core conclusions that we made that it is not financial instruments that are most effective, right? But rather it is mentorship and advisory type of instruments that could help our companies to commercialize themselves. And now at Skolkovo we're actually using those instruments very actively, and as I told before, the revenue of our company significantly increased during the last couple of years, and it is almost reached $1 billion. That is really a significant figure, and that is why I think that this type of instruments could be most effective to support the startups. Thank you.
Thank you. So actually, this is interesting discussion later on. Also, John, we're also curious, what is the Albuquerque model and what is the Skolkovo model, and to see, hey, where do you meet? A lot of interesting, toolboxes, systems, but without real events, you can have a beautiful innovation system, but nothing happens. So it's also important to organize events, to get people together, to mobilize this community. And as such, I'm very happy to announce next speaker, Didier Lapierre, who's responsible for technology transfer at CNES. And yeah, tell us a little bit how you mobilize the community for entrepreneurship. Thank you.
Yes, thanks to the organization to invite me and you to be here. So I am in charge of technological transfer in CNES, which is a French space agency. So we have 5 big areas of activity. The first one is a launcher. And for us, what is very important is independent access to space. The second one is science. And there is trying to find answer to very fundamental questions, like the origin of the solar system, the galaxy, and the life on Earth. The third one is observation. You know that Earth is on the watch of plenty of satellites. And with that, we have a lot of data that can help us for meteorology and to explain all the climate change and things like that. We have also telecommunication and what we can say a grand public application. Now satellites are a very important place in high-speed telecommunications and also in GNSS. And the last one is defense, and there is a very high resolution optical observation that help the surveillance from space, and we hope that that will contribute to peace and security of the populations. To do that, we have 4 major activities, and in first sight we can say that there is one for each site. The biggest one in Toulouse, where there is 1,000 and quite 800 people. There is a technical center, a bit like ESTEC, and our specialty is orbital systems. We have another technical center in Paris, Doménil, for the launcher. After in Paris, we have also the headquarters with strategy, program management, international affairs, and also transfer of technology. And in French Guiana, in fact, there is the place where we launch Ariane, Soyuz, and Vega. So that was for the CNES. For my part, I will just give you a little sum up of our intellectual property policy. First of all, she's quite new because our chairman signed it in 2013. And how you can see, the areas of application is quite normal in this kind of policy. Maybe the second one is a bit new for French people because we don't like to speak about business and money, but this time we do an effort for that. And in 2 years, you have the 5 more important actions that we made. And I will focus 2 of them. Quickly, the first one, because it was possible with the help of ESA transfer of technology program. You must know that each member is allowed to put on his territory structure which can help young startup, less than 5 years, at the only condition that they use space technology to do something else. And in France, we create the first ESABIC, which called South France ESABIC because the town are in the south of France. And in 1 year and a half, it's not the same result than Solkovo, but we have nevertheless 19 startups, and it's 79 jobs, and the turnover is a bit more than 2 million. So it's already very nice for us. And before that, the French was involved in the creation of 1 startup every 3 years. So we change of range. And now I will focus a bit more about an event, which is Act in Space. So in fact, we start when I don't know, in fact I know a bit, but I'm not exactly if you have the same trouble in the other ESABIC or incubator. But in France we have plenty of incubators and it's not easy to find startup to go inside. So we say, okay, we have to try to talent scouting, try to find a good project. And for that, in fact, we say, we decide to believe in generation crisis. That means people between 18 and 25. So we focus for them a special event. So it's focused for them, but everyone can go. Maybe, yes. And the aim was to introduce students to space, to develop innovative ideas, and also, of course, to develop entrepreneurship spirit for the students. So to do that, with the help of ESABIC Sud France, we made a mixture between hackathon and startup weekend, which are two fashionable way to work together in a very short period. And I don't give you all the explanation because maybe you get used of hackathon and startup weekend. But the idea is to do that on space technology. So we take some pattern, generally from CNES, but it's also possible for our partners to propose some challenges. And with that, we ask to the young people to try to find a use of this technology and also try to find a market and go to, check to the concurrents and maybe be able to start a new company. So like every hackathon or startup weekend, all the candidates could eat and sleep on site. Few of them came back to home to have a little rest. And you can see that on the left, the experts stay on call to answer because the event was on 5 sites. So there is some remote questions and they have to answer to that. Each towns have to select a podium and the winner of each town go to the Toulouse Space Show in the beginning of July. And there, there is the final, and the winner has traveled to go to the French Guiana to see the launch of Ariane and also to visit a bit this very nice country. And there you have some figures. What is important is that it was the first edition last year. We had a bit more than 200 candidates. At the end of the weekend, 10 projects seems to be very interesting. Now it's working alone, but now 6 are still alive. 2 are already inside ESABIC Sud France, and we hope that the third one will join it in September. So there is just a little sum up for the next edition, but maybe we will develop a bit later in our panel. We are already 11 towns in France who agree to participate, and with the help of ESA and ESABIC Sud France, we will open it to Europe, and we are already 8 towns who are agree to try, and even 1 in South America, and maybe 1 in Morocco. And the next edition will be in May 2016. So that's all.
So yes, it's very important to mobilize the community, but also the talents to participate to these events, to join and to come up with new ideas based on space technology. And with that, I would like to invite the last panel speaker for now, before we start with questions, which is Thorsten Rudolph, Managing Director of Anwendungszentrum Oberpfaffenhofen, also Director of the ESA BIC in Bavaria, of course, and organizer of the European Satellite Navigation Competition and the Copernicus Competition. Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Niels. Space, ladies and gentlemen, is the backbone for growth in digital business and entrepreneurship in Europe. We run the Anwendungszentrum GmbH Oberpfaffenhofen since 2004, and one of our shareholders, for example, is the German Aerospace Center DLR. We drive your innovative space applications. This is our mission. Our focus is on innovation, incubation, and the commercial use of space technologies. We are running the two leading innovation networks in Europe, the Satellite Navigation Competition and the Earth Observation Competition. Next to this, we have also a focus on space technologies like robotics and photonics, where we also see high value for business transfer to other areas. On behalf of the European Space Agency, we are running so-called app developer camps to bring big data from space to the cloud. This is the mission. And last but not least, incubation, business incubation in Bavaria, where we support our entrepreneurs. And we are running platforms for events, congresses, and also trade fairs. Now, the ESNC, the Galileo Masters, this is a leading satellite navigation competition in Europe with more than 10,000 participants since 2004. And the strategy is that we are working together with countries or with the space clusters of partner regions all over Europe. And through this network, we can offer a prize pool worth 1 million euro. So we can offer cash prizes and the whole bundle of support activities from business incubation to access to public funding. And very important, we have the support of the GSA, of the European Commission, as well as from partners like European Space Agency, the German Aerospace Center, DLR. So this is really a huge opportunity to create new applications based on satellite navigation and to support startup companies. The second competition since 2011 with more than 2,000 participants, also on behalf of the European Space Agency, is the Copernicus Masters, where we support applications based on Earth observation data. With a strong network with partners from research and industry. Last year, for example, Skybox was partner of this competition to make use of data from small satellites, Airbus Defence and Space, Catapult, to name a few. Yeah, and we are running these app camps together with ESA since 4 years now, and in cooperation with SAP, because SAP is offering a cloud platform with access to 200,000 customers. So, and this is the strategy to bring big data from space into the cloud and to offer the opportunity to develop a huge bundle of new applications for different areas. And here you can see the award ceremony with SAP, with ESA, and this is really something what we want to expand in the following years all over Europe. Yeah, we got it. 101 startup companies in Bavaria with creating 1,200 high-tech jobs with an annual turnover of 90 million euro. And one of the biggest supporters is the Bavarian Ministry of Economic Affairs. But in the meantime, we have a strong partnership with the German Aerospace Center DLR as a location of Oberpfaffenhofen, with the Fraunhofer Society in Nuremberg, and since 1 month now with Airbus Defence and Space in Ottobrunn. So this is really a strong partner network here in Bavaria to support the next 100 startup companies, hopefully. And yeah, the survival rate, 87%. This picture shows a little bit where our startups are. Many of them came out of the competitions. They make use of space technologies and space in-orbit infrastructure. I believe this is the correct wording, like satellite navigation, satellite communication, Earth observation. And as you can see, they develop services and products in many areas, terrestrial markets, established markets, as well as new emerging markets. And these companies offer space solutions for world-class customers, for example, BMW, Audi in the automotive industry, SAP, Intel, and so on and so on. Yeah, last but not least, I want to invite you to our conference in Berlin in October, the Satellite Masters conference, where we bring together all these stakeholders, the whole community. And if you want to sponsor a session or something like this, please let us know. We're here at is a big Bavaria booth, so you have the opportunity to talk with us. Yeah, we drive your innovative space application. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Thorsten, for this. Maybe as we're at it, by the way, so we have actually two great stuff coming up. Now in October we have the competition, but then of course you open the next competition next year again, or it's this year. Do you have the award ceremony?
Yeah, the award ceremony is in October, every year in October.
And then when do the new rounds of competition start?
We'll start again in April.
Okay, next year.
I have to mention that we want to expand this European satellite navigation competition also to Asia. For the first time now, we are running an Asian challenge with our partner here in Europe, the GNSS Asia, and we want to transfer this community also to
a global,
Asia.
a much more global exercise. Thorsten, and the question goes also a little bit to DJ. What is also important around these competition and hackathons? Because yes, it's of course also to mobilize entrepreneurs, but what happens around it as well? And John, actually, I would like you to reflect on what Thorsten and DJ are telling us.
Yeah, I believe if you build up such kind of networks on a European scale, you have to offer a benefit for each of these partners. For example, the partner regions here are very interested in the global marketing of their local activities. So we have partners in the UK or in South Sofia Antipolis since 10 years now, and they made use of this network, the communication network, to promote their own activities. So this is the benefit for European space clusters. In addition to that, we are working together with industrial partners, so they are looking for disrupted technologies, new trends, and they want to invest in these trends. And we have the public partners like the DLR as a research institution, or the GSA here, and they are really interested in upcoming new innovative
so it creates also innovations in their companies by being exposed to entrepreneurs, by being exposed to people who think out of the box. And DJ, if you have these hackathons with these enthusiastic people fueled with energy, of course around them there are also jury members, experts. How do they experience such a hackathon?
You mean how I can mobilize them? In fact, I think that all the community shares the same value and want to help young people and try to help them to find job, and so it's very nice to offer for the senior, the experts, the possibility to help the young, and for the young, the possibility to benefit of all this experience. And we succeed in create critical mass where it's possible to do some big event that if you are alone, it's very hard to do. So for that was great. The point is that for the young people, we feel a lot of hope, and they really want that we didn't stop after it was in May last year, and they want that we go on to help them to try to have their own startup. And even when they are not on the podium, because I told you that because it's a bit the fun in this kind of exercise. People pitch, and so there is a winner. But I told you that already 2 startups joined ESABIC Sud France. One of these 2 was the last one in Toulouse, because they were a bit afraid, and it was only business guy. And they say, okay, on technical point of view, it's too light, so they didn't want to pitch. And when we saw all their job, we said, okay, it's very good. We work with them, and now they are quite...
Bon courage, yes.
That's great.
That's very good. And John, how do you see that? I mean, is this a kind of deal flow mechanism, or are we activating what is sometimes referred to the nascent entrepreneur who has to be shaken awake? How do you see it?
So I'll start by saying hackathons are a bad idea. And that's just to be a bit of a contrarian. The challenge with a hackathon is, yes, it helps people self-identify as part of a community, and that's very important. So oftentimes entrepreneurs work in isolation, and they don't realize there's people just like them. I work in isolation in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I did not realize that I had comrades, and as far as the the former Soviet Union, as far as Russia to Japan, all around Europe. So in terms of creating a community, I think it's a great idea. The trouble with a hackathon, and this is borne out by a couple of studies that the Kauffman Institute has done, or the Kauffman Foundation has done, is most successful entrepreneurial startups are created by men in their late 40s. And most of our systems are created to serve the needs of men in their 18 to 22-year-olds lifespan. So I know it's fun to have the energy of the next generation, but a lot of systems need to be created more intentionally around the people in that critical age gap of what I'll call middle management. And the biggest reason people start entrepreneurial endeavors usually is because they realize they're never going to be the president of their company. And the president is taking the company in a direction that they don't agree with, so they leave their companies to start a new company. So I would actually encourage people, as you look at creating programs, start to create programs for people that are 40, 45, 50 years old, because that actually gives you a higher probability of success. And I don't know about the rest of the 40-year-olds in this audience. I'm probably not going to be going to a hackathon, right? Now, wine and cheese, that might be a different story.
But you could, for instance, be a coach there, and that way you also reach your true potential, because you're encouraged to actually think, hey, wait a minute, isn't that something I could be doing myself? If I look at this, thank you. If I look at the Scolo, how is your? Do you have similar experiences? There's one thing you organized recently, which was the Startup Village, I believe.
Yeah, so actually, yeah, I would say that we have a pretty similar experience, and I would like to say thank you for Torsten for the idea of arranging this Copernicus competition, and I would like to confess that after I had visited the final of the award ceremony of Copernicus, I have decided to arrange something like this in Skolkovo Foundation, and now we have launched this competition that is called Naviterra, that is exactly for services, for space services and navigation and in Earth observation. So what it brings to, actually, what I like in this idea of arranging this competition, of course it is not for major entrepreneurs, right, that would not participate in it. It is rather for young people who want to take a risk. And I guess what is really valuable in such kind of events is that it is actually brings new ideas to big corporations. So we have arranged this competition with big sponsors, with Rostelecom, with Scanex. Those are big Russian corporations, multi-million dollars revenue. But those companies, are really conservative. When they come to those competitions, when they become the judges of in these events, and when they see this flow of ideas, they really understand that something is going on outside their corporations, and this is really huge, and this comes as a huge surprise for them. And they invest. Sometimes they buy people, they hire them, and this is actually the type of ecosystem that we would want to develop in Skolkovo and in Russia.
Okay, so yeah, there we can see kind of a combination between what John said earlier and also what DJ and Torsten said earlier. Yeah, you have, of course, a young community who's very agile, who really wants to be that promise of the future. You also have, of course, the older, and it was coined yesterday actually also, and there are young entrepreneurs and there are old entrepreneurs. Well, I guess you need them. I guess you need them both. The older entrepreneurs which are in corporations, and maybe it's time for them to become independent and do their own thing, and the young entrepreneurs who are still at the start of their careers and can take a certain risk. That's one tool. If we look into other tools we can utilize, and Takayuki, you of course employ a vast array of tools to create technology transfer. Is there a tool where you say, hey, this works very good, or this doesn't work so good, or is it an advantage that you have multiple tools to do venture creation and technology transfer?
Okay, thank you for the question. So actually we have several kind of toolbox, and I think that having the toolbox is very effective for us because we received various kind of proposal or inquiries, as I said. But each case is a unique one and not the same one. So even our system is a rather small system, but we can propose a suitable system from our toolbox to each cases. So this is quite effective and effective in order to work with the variety of the needs or proposal from the SMEs to large companies.
So basically, what you're saying. The chance that you sell a no to somebody who wants to have help is very small, because you always have a tool. If you're an entrepreneur, we can help you with new venturing. If you're a seasoned company who's already very experienced, just looking for this technology from space, you can help. So that is an advantage. Then I have to go back to you again, Alexei. Is it the same thing you're doing as well? That you have these various tools which you can then use where the need actually is?
Yeah, exactly, and this is what I try to communicate during my presentation. I would say that we try to differentiate the tools we use for companies at different stages of investment cycle, right? So, for example, at the seed type of companies, of course, we try to provide financing, we try to provide grant support, we try to find the right partners, the right venture capital funds, and so on and so forth. But as soon as those companies pass the value of death, they come up with a product to the market, we think that at this point of time it is very important to support them not with money, but rather with advice and with door opening opportunity. And we as a Skolkovo Foundation really have very good and powerful tools to do that. And by the way, this Startup Village event that you have mentioned is exactly an event where we try to meet our entrepreneurs with big corporates and try to facilitate those contacts and those contracts, potential contracts between them. So to answer your question shortly, yes, we try to differentiate the tools that we use for different types of companies.
Okay, tools. On the other hand, you also need an asset. Actually, John, we had a discussion a little bit earlier this week about the more asset approach. You have to put an asset. In your case, it's nuclear power. But in the case of Gary, it's of course immediately the Galileo satellite infrastructure. And of course, in the case of Amnon, it's the overall satellite infrastructure, not only navigation, but also Earth observation and telecommunication. John, could you maybe make a very quick recap about this asset you were telling me about, the asset which attracts the entrepreneurs? And then it would be interesting to have the opinions of Gary and to reflect on your statement and also of Amnon about that. Please.
So the asset mentality is based around the idea that entrepreneurs can settle anywhere. So entrepreneurs can be very transient, they can move. And unless there's some reason, a compelling reason for them to be in a community, they're likely to move to another community. So an asset is something unique about the community that can be opened up for use by the entrepreneurs. In our case, the research around nuclear weapons was opened up in, don't worry, we didn't open up the secret stuff. We opened up the non-proprietary stuff to allow entrepreneurs to benefit from it. And they did it in two ways. One was through licensing, and the other was to simply have access to the nuclear researchers who had developed a technology and allow them to apply their research to an entrepreneurial problem. And it might be something as simple as I'm having a problem with my airbag. I can't get my airbag to deploy quick enough. Anyone who has a car with an airbag currently, that's the same technology that's used in the nuclear trigger. So there's always a commercial application. But unless an entrepreneur can have access to that, it's not an asset. It's simply a government-funded program.
Okay. Gary, does that sound recognizable to you, the asset which is driving entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I don't know if I totally got your question, but I would like to contribute and give a perspective regarding the non-financial assistance. So I believe there are basically three pillars to do that. First, the entrepreneurial opportunities, two, the entrepreneurial propension and free capacity. I think GSA is really very much engaged, especially in the first one, entrepreneurial opportunities. As you know, we have the market report. I have it here open on my iPad. It has, after one day, 10,000 downloads, and it analyzes in 8 market segments, which then are divided in many other subsegments, the detailed value chain, key players, and so on. I think an entrepreneur wants to know the market in which he wants to get in, the trends, the drivers, and the key players. Therefore, I think information is key. Then, I think another important thing is to, and we are trying to do that, to give the right contacts. There are thousands of contacts in each of these markets, you know, application developers, service provider, and receiver manufacturers. So the entrepreneur, the SMEs can contact them. 3, we have to disseminate the best practices. We have a lot of products which were developed in R&D by Commission, by us, but in general, also ESA has a lot of success. We have to make sure that those are disseminated and known. We don't do the same things. We have to coordinate very well to make sure we don't duplicate. Sometimes I see projects which were already ready for the market. The same researcher goes to another institution and does the same. I think it doesn't help. We want to develop finished product. We want businesses. We don't want research projects.
And Gary, with that you touch actually also another topic, which I'm not sure we have a lot of time, but it's on the part of the coordination. We have all those tools, and we also need to coordinate amongst each other which tools. It's not only internal coordination, but it's also a coordination amongst the different member states. I'm on the last word before I ask the audience also to come up with some comments.
Thank you. I would like to summarize the point of coordination. First, it's important to have the awareness part. The awareness part that we have 22 member states, at least in Europe. So we have to coordinate with all those member states to those young people or entrepreneurs, all ages. We have a profile which is not like US in a certain age. We have young, we have older, we have different profile. We have analysis on the different communities. So the ambassador network is important. Second, coordination with the big centers. It's important. This is what we are doing internally. We coordinate between the different, let's say, feudalic system within ESA, but we coordinate with the agencies. So the Germans, the UK, France, and so on, they coordinate. But there are more countries, the new member states of ESA, who do not have. There we are applying the ambassador concept, which have access to the industry, but to young people. The last things which we did is actually the request from those community what they need. The first round, they want to meet users. So we have a workshop, annual meeting users. Second workshop was to identify the dual use. So we had in Rome the next annual workshop, trying to understand how we can use the military but also civilian component together to try to generate those kind of idea because of lacking of resources. The third one was in Luxembourg to address the issues of investment from European Investment Bank. The last one, which was in February in Geneva, to understand how we can work with non-space community. And we had a workshop of 1,600 people. 300 were the normal suspicious guys who do space. We call it the Rotary Club. But we met 1,300 people young from all over the world discussing. It was a fantastic event where we generated many projects. So there are many layers of synergy. We are coordinating with the Commission annually about their activity and ours. I believe Europe, it's such a heterogeneous, and that's the beauty of Europe.
Gary, is that something you...
Yes, I wanted just, really I support this idea of coordination is quite a challenge because as you know, there are many actors, national players, international players, and European players and so on. I also want, however, to say, underline a key points, which is, what is the single most important key factor for success for an entrepreneur? I would like to ask you, but I mean, I don't want to be the professor.
Gary, we can pose the question
so what
to the
is
public.
For you? What is the single most important thing for an entrepreneur to succeed for you?
Anybody?
Only one thing I want to know.
Passion? I hear passion.
There are good entrepreneurs there because unfortunately there is one which is the most important.
Anybody else?
And I didn't hear, probably you said that, and it is the timing. Because if you arrive too late, you have a problem. But attention, there is a problem also in arriving too early. And so what is our obligation, I think, as GSA, since we supply services, to make sure we provide the information of the differentiating services. I tell you one, for example, open service authentication. It can really be a strong differentiator of Europe. And thanks God, ESA is working on it. So we are in a bank, the ESA bank, which is working on OS authentication. If we can really achieve this, is a challenge, Europe will have an advantage. And European entrepreneur, imagine I have a whole list of applications, can develop application in producer charging, digital tachograph, pay-as-you-drive, mobile payment. Imagine they could even develop application to detect if in gaming, if a person is playing from Nevada, no, he's kind of spoofing, and he's playing from New York, where he cannot do a game, and he pretends to be in Nevada. But with OS authentication, we can spot. This is just an extreme example.
Of course, in business, you have to make sure that it's also a safe and secure environment, that you have a fair competition and not that somebody is bugging the system and is spoofing the signal. I would like also to offer the floor, even though we have limited time left, to the audience. Any questions? I see already Mr. Voice van Buurtje. Let me go to you.
So I'm acting again as icebreaker. I have actually a statement and two recommendations. My statement is I welcome very much that all agencies are taking up the need to sponsor entrepreneurship. I think, and that is a good thing because only agencies and their actors can be independent in sponsorship and in advice and in all these things. But with that compliment, it's already wine enough now. I have to come with the water in the wine. But what I learned from the figures which yesterday Mr. Salzgeber presented, or this morning, 0.15% in ESA. Then NASA or JAXA told us it's a bit less than ESA. NASA is a bit more. So I think, for me, this is a sort of an almost alibi function. And you should really do everything possible to increase that figure to a substantial one. Let's say 1% of a budget of an agency should be spent for supporting entrepreneurship. That would not be too much, and I'm certain that it could help. Aerospace industry is still the prime producer of patents and know-how. We have, for instance, I quoted in the previous session this example of 400,000 new enterprises in Germany every year, but I have to be more precise. It was 413,000 in 2009, and it was 346,000 in 2012. That means a reduction of 20%. So that means we have a desperate need of increasing our entrepreneurship to ensure the wealth of our future generations. And you, the agencies, be it GSA or ESA or JAXA or NASA, you could do a lot in order to help the sponsor entrepreneurship in the future. And then I come with even my most heavy criticism, apart from you, Mr. John Freisinger, who are at least partly industry. I was missing anybody from industry here, and industry is actually the prime holder of these patents and know-how. So what we have to do is we have to get industry on board. And I give you one small example. The American agency NASA, they have for some contracts, they say, for research contracts, they say you get 100% of the money, but you get only a certain amount, let's say 90%, and 10% is blocked. 10% you only get after your research is completed for outreach. And then all of a sudden, the researchers, they start to get very high interest to use the experiment data for outreach. Before, they just stored it in their box, and nobody was thinking about it, and now they do it. And you have to think about something in the application arena that you pass contracts in industry where you say you get 95% for development or whatever, and 5% you get only if you disseminate the use of your inventions or your development results to new entrepreneurs or whatever broader application. And I think I would like to encourage you to really go ahead with this important element and not hesitate to cause a little revolution in your agencies. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So yes, that's a very good point indeed, and that's maybe somewhere where we can still we have maybe 5 minutes left, and then we should do really something about integration outside of this room. But yes, so the involvement, more and more involvement of industry, and also embedding the contracts space agencies have with industry to have a kind of a mandatory target in which you really look for that dissemination. I immediately see Amnon, and I think also Takayu. Maybe later you can also comment on that, Amnon.
Thank you, Mr. Bushel. I think there is one point must be clear. We are not talking about that we are paying 100% for the industry what we are doing. No. This is the uniqueness of the program that we are doing now. We pay maximum 50%. So for the classical industry contract which Foster Bushel meant, I fully support that. The problem is, in our area, we fund maximum 50%. The fact that those industry pay 50% or get other user or customer who pay that 50%, it's a fantastic tool to generate the convincement aspect that this is really interest of the industry to roll out services. If they do it alone or with other member states or not, we don't care. If they bring the money from penguin in the Antarctic, we don't care. That's the point. And we attract already money almost from the penguin. And I think this is a sustainability concept. I go back to the recommendation from Foster Bushel. I would more than be delighted, I'm not the decision maker, but the space industry shall be obliged to support this kind of issue. They are very spoiled. They are getting 100% funding. And if there is a delay in the program, they get the CCN for more money. This is how we spoil the industry. And I'm very frankly, we need to come back to square one and to do it more promotion of entrepreneurship. Yes, of course.
Okay. maybe, yes, how do you look at it from a JAXA perspective?
Okay, thank you very much for your comment for us. So actually, I cannot commit the number or the budget, but JAXA is always eager to support such an entrepreneur or new ideas. And as we discussed this 2 days, that such things is more important nowadays. So we'd like to continue to utilize such opportunities like this, and to continue the activities.
Yeah, so also involving industry and having industry also take responsibility in the end and share with us those things. Are there any other questions from the audience? Yes, over there. Let me go to you. I see there's already somebody coming. No, I'll do it. Let's keep it a bit interactive. Here you go.
Thank you. It seems that the established processes and frameworks are very successful, but beyond the inter-European coordination, are there any measures or processes in place how to track innovation globally and to track the startups from the other countries so that you can maybe prepare your own startups for the competition to expect once they start their business?
Okay, so yes, well, maybe somebody else now. Maybe Torsten, are you interested in answering that question?
Yeah, most of our competitions are globally, so that means that startup companies, entrepreneurs from all over the world can present the business cases here in Europe to, as I mentioned before, to our partner regions, to our industrial partners. So this is a kind of monitoring of the global entrepreneurship in certain areas and with a specific focus. So, for example, if a company call a specific price with a certain topic, then they can get access to all startup companies in this area globally. So this is our strategy for that.
Yes.
So first, we fully support Torsten Galileo Master, which is, I would say, a benchmark worldwide in terms of competition. And we not only support, but we invest. And I hope we can invest more. We also have more specific by market segment, smaller competition. And I want you also, since you're young, if you have young friends in the farming industry or in the surveying industry, you have too specific for that.
Thank you, John. Still, I want to ask you quickly, benchmarking. Oh, you've got your mic, yes. Benchmarking. How do you look at that?
So the wonderful thing about benchmarking is that's what helps all of our organizations get our next funding. The reason we board you with our statistics is that's what we hold up to our funders. So the key with benchmark, and nobody is surprised by that, right? If I create 100 companies, that's going to get my next round of funding. The challenge, though, is are you spending enough time looking at benchmarking that which matters? And is it jobs? Is it wealth? Is it the number of companies created? I think that's up to each community, whether that be a city, a state, a country, a nation, or a union, to understand what they want out of this technology transfer, because it's too easy to manipulate numbers and too easy for us to stand up here and say these are significant numbers, because quite frankly, does $1.3 billion worth of venture capital matter to anybody in this room? The short answer is no. But does it matter to the several hundred companies that we've helped? That's what we have to look at for benchmarking, is what matters to the local community that you serve. And so I don't have a good answer other than ask those people in your community.
Some reflections?
Yeah, for example, a kind of benchmarking was that during the last years, we got a lot of taxi apps in our competition. I've done now 15, 20 taxi apps, and nothing was successful. And suddenly my taxi came up, and they had the right business model to bring my taxi to the market. So I don't know what it is, but I believe very often the business model is very important, and the right access to the market.
Amnon, a last remark before I close?
Yeah, just to answer the question from the audience. There are several programs like SeedStar, globally collecting idea, and a last lift to space conference in Geneva, there were some 50 ideas which were promoted globally. The second idea that you may consider is that within European Investment Bank in Jordan and for the Arabic region, we have called for idea to attend the fund means it's not only European companies. The only condition is to make partnership with European company. This is the beauty of the collaboration globally. Last, for the collaboration, we had a visit from JAXA president in our center in Harwell, Exat, and the person who attended from JAXA attended my program for 1 year to study how we are doing. She was nominated now as our ambassador in Japan to create collaboration between the two community. I think this is the beauty of this collaboration and such an event like Niels is now coordinating.
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, thank you very much for that. So there are two things actually we now gain from this discussion is first of all, indeed, involve more and more industry, have industry also take responsibility to sit together with the agencies and take a lead in enterprising, in fostering new enterprises, and at the same time, of course, the coordinative effort amongst all of us, industry and agencies, to work together to create a climate in which new venturing can actually prosper. Due to the time, we're a little bit running out. We're already 10 minutes late, but I thank you very much that you've been so interested in this session. Tomorrow, in the closing, we will come up with the final conclusion of this discussion, and I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you very much.